Carlos, you rolling, right?
Okay. Hey guys, this is Omar from Brown Liquor and Cigars, and today I'm joined by two very special guests. We have Skylar. How you doing, Skylar?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, and John, Mr. John, welcome back.
I'm still a guest. What up?
I'm still a guest.
Woo!
OG right there.
Yeah, great to. I know the audience is going to be tuning into this one for sure. So keep me honest, John. Keep me honest.
Yeah, you know they excited.
No representatives here today.
Yeah. So, so this past week it was very interesting, and we were chatting in a group chat with some of us, and there was a lot of women from the podcast that tune in or have been on the podcast in the past, and the conversation was very interesting. And one of the things that I constantly kept hearing, and this was from both genders, is well, only if this person, if men would do this, or if women would do this, and we would be different, right? And what I took out of that is, can we stop playing the blame game? Can we sit down and be honest and stop playing the blame game, right? And I think in relationships, one of the things that's huge that we talked about in the last podcast was communication, right? Honesty. But the one thing that we didn't bring up was taking responsibility in a relationship, right? And I want to read you guys something that I took from an article about responsibility. So taking responsibility in your relationship is the acknowledgement and ownership of every action and word you say and do. And the question for you guys, and I'll open it up, is how important is taking responsibility in relationships? And John, kick us off.
You talking about after the relationship is over with, or while you're in the relationship?
While you're in the relationship.
Oh, you got to own up to your shit.
Okay. And what does that look like for you as far as taking responsibility?
I think it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you have to own up to mistakes you made or things that you're doing that you could improve on. And then also taking ownership when your person that you're with, they tell you, hey, I need this. And if it's valid what they need, you need to own up to it and make it happen. So sometimes it's not always an easy thing to do, because it means that you have to say, I need to improve on this, or I'm wrong. And it requires a certain level of vulnerability to do that. So It's not always easy.
Okay. And Skylar, would you agree with that?
I do. I think responsibility, I think a lot of times people, like John was saying, gets usually in a relationship to a mistake. And for me, responsibility is more than just owning up to a mistake. Like, that's something that as grown people, you should just naturally do.
Yeah.
But you have to be responsible for your actions in a relationship. Whereas you have to know, for me, knowing who you are is the biggest key in taking responsibility in your relationship. You have to own that, you know what, I might not be the person that can do this for you. Like with Carlos, where he was like, hey, I need 5 days. Hey, I know that ain't gonna work for me. So, you have to know what you can and can't do in a relationship. And I think that's very important. And being able to truly know who you are in order to take responsibility for that and for your actions is a big thing, because it can cause a lot of problems. It can cause a lot of problems because, like as John said, if you can't meet what someone needs from you, you got to take responsibility for that. And a lot of people think they're being attacked, and they're like, well, hey man, you're not doing this, or you can't do this. People get offensive, So
Right.
Nobody wants to be told they're doing something wrong, or no one wants to be scolded in a relationship and like talked down on, like you're a child. Well, you need to take responsibility for this, and it makes you get defensive. So it's a tough thing to do, though.
Yeah, and I think it does take a lot of maturity to understand that it's not an attack towards you as a person, but something that you're doing that's making them feel a certain way.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
And I think a lot of the times that's it's misconstrued because it's hard to not get defensive, in those situations. And I think a lot of the times, I know personally I struggle with that. It's so quick to react.
Yeah.
Versus actually taking time to listen to that person. And I was just having a conversation with my brother from College Station because he came and visited us over the weekend. But he was saying that, a lot of the times, one of his issues was that a lot of the times the feedback is like he tries to tell his partner or his spouse that how they should feel based off his actions, right?
Yeah.
And for him to admit that took a lot of maturity, to say, sometimes I don't realize that or even with our kids, like, hey, you should feel this way. But, we've talked about emotions and how people feel, and there's no right or wrong way. And it's not for us to dictate how they should feel.
Exactly.
Can you kind of break that down or elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell somebody how they should accept what you do to them. Or your actions in the situations. It's up to them to decide how they want to process it. And it's just up to you to respect that. And then, you have a choice. You can either correct your actions or you don't correct it. And then they have a choice to either leave your ass for not correcting it or stay with you in hopes that you're gonna correct it. So
I love the bluntness. Just leave their ass or just stay and deal with it.
We talk about when you get older, the older you get, I mean, it should be easier to make those decisions. You're not giving me what I want. So because you're not giving me what I want, life's too short for me to stay with you. So I'm just going to let you go. It's just as simple as that. Because why spend the rest of your life with someone who's going to make you unhappy?
Right.
Yeah, you're not being fulfilled, so why would I stay around?
Yeah.
I think Omar had a good point of telling people how to feel and how people should react to something. Like in a relationship, I think one of the hardest things is knowing that your spouse their intent is not to hurt you.
Right.
And a lot of times when you're having a tough discussion, like you get defensive with people's feelings. You always say, well, you're attacking me and this and that. And I know for me, in my relationship, we make a point to understand each other and understand that what you're telling me, if you're saying, hey, you're not meeting this need for me, you're not telling me that with the intent to hurt me. You're telling me that so I know that what I'm doing is not working for you. Yep. So I look at it like it's more of an opportunity for me to listen to what you're saying and apply something different. Because the biggest thing that people say in relationships is, if I would have known, I would have X, Y, and Z. But the problem is a lot of times the spouse will let you know you're not doing X, Y, and Z, right. But you're so busy trying to say, but I did this, I did that, I did that. And the person's like, that's great, but that's not what I need. Right. But a lot of times that message, when you're actually trying, it can be hurtful to you. And instead of saying, you know what, I get I'm not hurting your needs, but right now I felt like I was doing my best. And that's something that person has to receive as well. But the big thing is knowing that your partner's intent on talking to you is not to hurt you. And if you think that your partner's actually trying to purposefully hurt your feelings, you need a new partner.
Yep. Right.
That's really, you need to move on. Like you said, just leave your ass, as John says.
and I'll push back on John, but I want to hit on a point that you pointed out. Also that
push back.
But one of the things too that's part of taking responsibility is not deflecting responsibility.
Exactly.
Right? Because you brought up like sometimes we tend to say, well, I didn't know. It's like, okay, you're right. Maybe you didn't know. And that's the God honest truth. But it's work, right? Like you said, the reason why we're being honest and we have that space to be, vulnerable and have that trust to tell you, hey, I feel like something's not aligned, right? Yep. Then it's also up to us to maybe be like Carlos in a way, to say, hey, you know what, I hear you, and let me repeat what I just heard. Let me take some time to process this. Oh, yeah. Because maybe I don't have the answer right here and then, right? It's
and I think that's a lot of times people, when you're face to face, you expect answers right then. And people just can't give it to you. Because if you're telling me that you need something and I've been trying and I'm not able to do it, and now you're just attacking me on it, then it's like, you know what? I understand. I hear you. Let me process it. Let me figure out another way to give you what you need, because clearly this isn't working. But you have to be receptive of allowing that person that time that they need.
Right,
maybe not 5 days, but maybe enough time. Maybe they just need to sleep on it, because sometimes people don't understand that conversations are a lot. They're draining. So sometimes you're just flat out tired, and it's like, you know what? I just need time to kind of re-energize, to really sit on it, sleep on it. And you know what? We can always reconvene at another time. But when you're face to face, man, it's nothing like that pressure of somebody looking at you, just kind of like, what we doing?
Right.
You know, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You got to give people time for that.
I think too, though, to avoid the person feeling like you're beating up on them is not waiting until you get fed up to express the way that you're feeling.
Don't wait until you're already boiling.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to simmer that down.
Once you notice that something is off, then tell that person, because you're going to be calm. You're not going to be frustrated.
Yep.
You're not going to feel all of that, because once you get to that point where you are at your boiling point, you're dumping on them.
Right.
And that's not fair.
It's not.
That is not fair. And at that point, whatever reaction they give you, you should, you have to take responsibility for your fault in that.
Right.
Because you waited months and you're expecting for them to resolve an issue that you've been holding on for months. No, don't do that to them.
Especially when it's their first time hearing that it's
first
an
time
issue.
hearing it. Yeah,
and when you're dumping on people, man, it's you can be honest and then you can be brutal. Mm-hmm. It's two different things. Being honest comes from a place of like compassion, concern. You know, it's a calmness. That's where your truth should be. Your truth should be spoken in calmness.
Yep.
Now, if you're being brutal, that's coming with anger. That's coming with sadness. That's coming with a lot of strong emotions. And you're typically delivering that message very harsh. It might be the exact same thing you want to say with just the truth, but when you're being brutal, you have no regard for that person's emotions and how they're going to take that. And really, you should expect them to give you some type of pushback, some type of negative reaction. You should expect it not to be accepted, because it's coming off more as, just like you said, you're dumping on me and you're attacking me. That's completely different than having a actual conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I want to clarify something that John said, because I don't want the audience to misunderstand that.
I'm right here and he's clarifying what I said. Okay. Let's hear my clarification.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, hey, like if somebody, if you're saying, hey, partner, you know, you're not giving me what I want. I understand where you're coming from, but the way what you're saying is that, like, hey, it's not transactional, meaning that, you know, it's not you give me and I give you. I think the way I see it is that, you know, both of you are pouring into a cup, and it's a cup that's blended together. So, you know, I don't want the audience to say, oh, well, if I'm not getting this in this relationship, like, leave their ass. It's like, no, obviously, you know, there's more that goes into that, but it's not a transaction, right?
It's not a transaction. It's once you express how you feel and what you need. If you're in calmness, you're a person that gives them the opportunity to say, because if they see that you're coming to them from a good place, they're going to come back to you from a good place. Mm-hmm. And they may say, hey, that's something that I can't give you right now in my life. And if someone tells you they can't give you something that you need at that moment, they are doing you a huge favor.
Correct.
They're saying, I can't give you what you need, so you can either stay with me in hopes that I'm going to get there, or you can leave me.
Right.
And
or we can work together to build that, right? To get to that point.
It depends on if that person believes that they can get there. But if they're saying, right now in my life, I can't give that to you. They're not saying... See, I think you are adding to what they're saying.
Omar's trying to build.
Yeah, he's trying
to construct something, and the person said, I ain't got the materials for you, bruh.
And they saying, right now, I cannot give that to you. So you have a choice. Am I going to stick around and wait for them to figure out if they can give that to me? How much is your time worth? That's what you have to ask yourself.
Right.
How much is my time worth? How much is my happiness worth? How long am I willing to wait around for this person to decide whether or not they can give me what I want or what I need? Right. So at that moment, you have a choice to say, hey, this is not the relationship for me, and it's not the relationship for you.
Right.
So you walk away or you stick around.
Yeah, and the other thing that I just thought about is that, if you are in that place, if you're that person that you feel lacking from the relationship, if let's just say that you're not ready to cut it off or go that route, then don't get into the mindset of like, well, he ain't giving me this, so I'm gonna stop giving this. No, if you've consciously decided that you're gonna stay and make it work, give 100% of what you know how to give. Right? Don't sell yourself short just because, your partner might be lacking on an area and you're like, well, he's lacking there, so I'm going to lack over here. That's not the right mentality to have.
I think relationships should not be transactional. The key word is they should not.
Right.
But realistically, they are.
They are.
They're 100% transactional, because if you're not getting what you need, and it's not just a women thing or a men thing. Anybody that does not feel like they're giving or getting what they need, they're not going to give it. Mm-hmm. They're not going to give. That's just human nature. It sounds really great. It's a great concept of, hey, you know what? We're all pouring in this cup. It's all right. We're going to build it together. But that's not real life relationships.
Yeah. Right.
Because if I need this and I'm not getting it, you're going to need something too. Human nature is going to be like, well, if I ain't getting what I need, I'm not going to give you what you need. That's why they always say relationships work when everybody's getting fulfilled.
Yep.
Everybody's getting what they need. And I think John's making that point of, if someone's telling you that they can't give you what you need to be happy in a relationship, you should move on.
Yep.
Because what's going to happen is, whether you realize it or not, you're going to stop giving that person your full 100% effort, and you're going to stop meeting their needs. And what might happen is that person's going to say, hey, you're not meeting my needs, I'm going to leave. And then what's going to happen is your reply is going to say, well, you weren't doing this for me, I decided to stay. And they said, well, that's your decision.
Yep.
And now you don't waste your time with somebody that wasn't giving you what you needed, and now they decided to leave your ass.
Right.
And then they should have left to begin with.
And then another danger, and this is just piggyback off of what Skylar says. So say, for instance, someone is, and I'm just going to rate this a little bit, someone is giving you 60% out of 100. You think they're giving you 60%. It's that 40% that you're missing. So you're giving them 100%. And say, for instance, you decide to stick around to them, and you pull back and you start giving them maybe 80%. Your 80% may be 100% to them. So they may still even be satisfied with
good point
what you're lacking. So it's like, and we don't want to say it's transactional, but it's a natural thing. When you're not getting what you did, you pull back a little bit. And all the time, you're not purposely doing it.
Right.
You just
subconsciously.
Yeah,
you're not going to go as hard anymore.
Yeah.
You're just not.
But that may be 100 to them.
Right.
You pulling back still maybe your 100 was 150 to them in the beginning before you start. Now you just at 100, so you're giving them everything that they want. So they still have no reason to step up to the plate, because you still satisfying them 100%.
Right.
But then you know what happens when that happens, though? The person that pulls back, they start noticing that they're pulling back. And when they notice that they're pulling back and you're still happy, that's going to make that person angry.
Yeah, it's going to make them angry.
Because they're gonna be like expecting you to have a conversation with them. Because people will give you what they want you to give them.
Yep.
So it's like, you know what? If you're gonna not meet my needs, and I'm gonna start taking a little bit of your needs away. And like you said, if you're still happy with that, you're gonna be fine. Then that person's gonna be like, well, I'm not doing this, and they're still happy. Damn. Okay, I need to go harder on this. They're still happy. Then there's gonna be argument for them saying, why are you happy with this? I'm not even trying. You're like, well, shit, I thought you were.
Yeah.
So now they're mad at you because their needs aren't met, and they were shortchanging you, and you didn't even acknowledge it.
Yep.
So they're really going to be ticked because now their needs aren't being met. They're not even being the person who they want to be in a relationship. Because when you start having to pull back what you want or how you normally act, it's not going to hurt that other person. It's going to hurt you because you're changing yourself.
Yep.
Right.
Regardless of what you think you're doing, that person just might not need that.
Yep,
So
right.
they're like, oh, you're stopping something that I didn't need any damn way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're good.
One of the ways that I think that you can kind of mitigate that is, especially in long-term relationships or marriages, is looking at those relationships and applying seasons to it, right? Because like we're all flawed to where, man, like I've been in seasons where I've been down and, I haven't had motivation to follow up or talk to my siblings on a regular basis or, be a good son or a good father. So, depending on what's going on or what's the scenario in that season when your partner, maybe talk about that. Hey, like I noticed that your energy in this area is kind of low. Let's talk about it. Like what's going on? Is this a season that you're going through? You know what? Yeah, I'm stressed out at work and, I have a lot of projects going on and maybe I might be dealing with
But when your needs are not being made, you don't give a fuck what season they in.
Right.
I'm in summer, motherfucker. I'm hot right now.
But
I don't care about your damn winter
I
cold,
don't
okay?
care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about you being in your low mom because this low mom, my summer heat was going on when you were in the spring. So this
my
didn't just
summer
start
heat.
now.
Right, but I'm saying there are scenarios where it might just be one season. We're not talking about like a long-term
But that ain't how it
issue.
normally work. In situations, we are more concerned about our needs in most situations. We're concerned about what we're not getting. We're not taking into consideration everything else that's going on in somebody else's life. All we can see is I'm lacking.
Right. And that goes back to our point that, hey, taking accountability, not just for the things that you might not be getting fulfilled in that relationship, but the, empathy, having grace with your other partner, that's also part of taking
We ain't worried about no empathy and sympathy and all of that other shit.
Oh, yeah.
John say, I don't do the feelings that end in THY. Okay? I'm not doing empathy. I ain't doing sympathy. I need my needs, damn it.
I got to get mine now. That's
Right
God.
now, but that's how we are.
Right.
And that's just what when we are lacking in our situations, we are not concerned with, because we're not thinking like that. All we're thinking about is our needs are not getting met. We're not thinking about that. And then it's also hard to take those type of situations into consideration when you sucked all other seasons. That's what I'm saying.
Goddamn, so the whole thing was bad. All year was trash.
For
Fall, winter, summer.
I told you last winter that you suck, that I'm not meeting. So now I done went through winter, spring, summer. I'm hot.
My allergies messing up. Now I got to deal with your ass too.
I've been telling you all along that my needs are being met.
If you're at that point, yeah, it's late. It's late. But that's why it's like a daily practice, right?
It is.
Like taking
But see,
responsibility
the
and have
thing-
that communication and honesty.
Yeah, and I think what John is saying is absolutely true. People, we are selfish. When we are depleted, we need to be fulfilled, and that's really our only focus. Now, for me, marriages are more, I think people view relationships as selfish things. People enter relationships for selfish reasons. Either they don't want to be lonely, they want to find love, they like attention, all these things. And what people don't realize is that marriages and long-term relationships are truly service industries. You are in a relationship to provide a service to another human being. You're not in a relationship for someone else to fill you up. You're in a relationship to fill someone else. And to John's point, when you make that commitment to be with somebody and they are not reciprocating and they're not fulfilling you, you kind of take it personally, especially if you're the person that is pouring everything into someone. And when you're pouring that much energy, that much time, that much effort into somebody and you don't feel like that is being reciprocated, you truly don't care about what season they're in.
Yeah.
Because if you have been doing your job, that means I've been doing everything for you throughout the relationship. Now, you can express and say, hey, you know what? I'm going through it right now. I can't really do X, Y, and Z. But I think that's for the person that cannot provide at the moment to initiate. Because by the time I notice I'm not getting it, like John said, I'm already on 10. Because I feel when you're used to someone pouring into you and then all of a sudden they don't, that's depleting on you as well. And you do, as that person, you have to kind of, I think what Omar is trying to get across is you have to kind of look as to why they're not able to do what they used to. Maybe it is stressors. Maybe it's kids, it's work, it could just be they just might not be in a good mood for whatever reason. They could be battling something else. So it is about service and it is about being selfish a little bit. But I think the mindset on the relationships have to change. You're going into it to fulfill someone else. I mean, I know nobody's job is to make you happy at all. You're supposed to already come there, but your spouse should always intensify whatever it is that you already have going on. Right. They shouldn't bring you down. Yeah. They should always build. And when they're not building with you, it does affect you. Yep. And I think that's John's thing is like, if someone's telling you, yo, I ain't got the hammer, I ain't got the wood, I ain't got the nails, I can't build you what you need to really listen to that, because it'll be your fault at that point if you're not being fulfilled. You want to be homeless. They can't build you the home that you want. And you got to be able to say, well, I got to move on, or I'm just happy not being getting what I need.
Yeah, and I think long-term too, like long-term marriages too, like nobody's perfect. We're all flawed. So just because you miss taking out the trash one day, it doesn't, oh, well, you're not fulfilling my need of you taking out the trash 100% of the time.
But I think too, a lot of times people think that you have to do the big things. Shit, people that are giving people it's the small things that will weigh more than you going to buy a new car.
Right.
You know, like Skylar on the previous, he said, I think food is Brittany's thing or something like that. Shit, stop by Jack in the Box, get her 2 tacos out of the blue.
Right.
Something like that
down.
You know that she likes, that doesn't take a lot of time from you, but let her know, hey, I'm thinking about you. You're on my mind. I'm doing some shit for you. I'm trying my best. If you can't build a house, get an architect to draw it. Draw it. That shows you're putting some energy into trying to satisfy them. But if you're not doing nothing, they can't read your mind.
Yeah, and that can go into like the daily practices, the daily habits that you're pouring into the work of your relationship, of your marriage. And kind of want to flip it on you guys a little bit. John, have you ever been in a scenario or a situation where you had to deal with misplaced blame on something that you're not doing this, and then in a way, I think a lot of people feel like, hey, well, yeah, maybe I'm at fault. Have you ever dealt with that in previous relationships?
Yeah, I think we've all been there, to be honest with you. I think we all get blamed sometimes for something. Yeah, I've been there.
So what would you say to the audience on how to recognize that and, hey, own your part, but, you know, because there are people that will try to make it seem like it's all your fault.
So I've said this 1,000 times on the podcast. One of the books I read that I love is The 4 Agreements. One of the agreements is take nothing personal. So every day in work, life, or whatever, I tell myself I'm special, but not that special. And what I mean by that is I'm saying I'm special, but not that special that every fucking thing that goes right or wrong in the day has something to do with me. So when someone places blame on me, I don't always take it personal, because I have to understand they're human. They're reacting towards me the way that they're feeling at that moment. So when it's stuff that you identify that someone is just putting blame on you that you're not responsible for, you don't own that shit. And you tell them, that's not me.
Right.
You know that I'm not taking ownership of that. You only own what you do, and you call out the shit that you don't. That's not your responsibility, or you didn't bring into that situation.
Yeah, and then on the flip side too, if you're with someone that always wants to put that blame on you, then you should probably
that's draining.
Yeah,
that's draining. If you've been blamed all the time for stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be blamed
The quote
for
of the podcast:
calling
"Leave
this-
their ass."
Yeah,
Leave
exactly.
That
Leave
part.
their ass. It's simple.
Leave their ass.
Yeah,
That's
and,
what you do.
And Skylar, like, I know you've been married a long time. Like, have you ever dealt with that here or there? And how do you deal when that situation does present itself?
You know what? I can honestly say I have not in this current relationship. I haven't, because the thing that I've learned from prior relationships is don't take things personally. Like John said, nothing is personal. And the thing that I've learned in this marriage is, again, intent. You got to understand that your partner's not trying to hurt you. If they are coming at you hard, a lot of times it's usually a buildup of things. Mm-hmm. And by that point, you just got to let that person vent and own your parts of what's happening, and then throw out the rest. Like, that's sometimes an argument is really just the person letting out their frustrations from multiple things throughout the day. And John had a real good one, that you're special, but not that special. Everything, even when you're married, everything isn't about you.
Right.
Sometimes they just have bad days, they have good days, like with anything. But I've been fortunate enough to not have to really deal with being blamed for anything crazy or being accused of anything, because we kind of take your advice. Daily we go through things, and we kind of discuss them, we see where we are, and we know we can read each other pretty well, to where we know if something is about us, or we know that something is just outside factors, more so or more less. So I've been lucky. I can't complain on that end. So I can't really speak on that, but I've been good. We practice the Omar daily conversations.
Yeah, no, and that's good advice, because I think a lot of the times, especially me, like when I look into content, I always see the bad side of relationships or marriages or divorce, and kind of seeing your relationship and hearing about it and seeing that there is an alternative. There are relationships that are thriving. Puts my mind in the right perspective, right? That, hey, just because I had a bad experience doesn't mean that everybody out here having the same experience. Right?
Oh no, definitely. And me and Britt get told a lot. Oh, you guys look like you're just so happy and you have so much fun. And we tell them, well, yeah, we do, but it takes a lot of work. In the beginning, it was tons of work, because we were 24 and 25 getting married. So you can only imagine that at that age, you're still learning yourself. You're still trying to figure out yourself. And a lot of our issues were that. It was a lot of things with conversations, and we just kind of built on it and really just had to sit down. And like, I know people used to make fun of me. I think Los used to see it. We would do yearly reviews. And I used to get so much shit from women and be like, how dare you review your wife? How dare you do this? And how do you rate her and do that? And I'm like, you get rated on everything, right? Yeah. Every your job, you get a yearly, quarterly, sometimes a monthly review on your performance. That's what you get. And you use that performance to get better, right, or they leave your ass by getting fired.
Yeah.
Yep. So I took that and I was like, you know what? Let me try to see if that would work. And it's nothing offensive. I don't go to Brittany with a PowerPoint or an Excel and say, hey, 1 to 10, you're about a 7 here, overall score. We don't do nothing like that. It's just a simple conversation of, hey, what are some things that you're needing that I'm not really meeting? What are some things that you want? What are some things that you feel like I can work on? And just real simple. It's real light. It's never oh yeah, it's review time, baby. Let me get my shots in, get my jabs. Hey, you suck here, you suck here, you suck here. Bow, sign. It's nothing crazy like that. It's just really reviewing. Yeah. And, I think that's a good thing to do. And when you don't associate it with any type of, well, the man is doing this or the woman is doing that, it's for both of you to grow and also take responsibility for the things that are not being done, and also for the things that you are doing good. Just like with all reviews, just always, hey, I think you're doing really good here. I think this is really great. This right here, I feel like we can work on for both of us. So just having that review really works for us, and that was something that took time. So I always tell people, what you see is really what you get with us, but it took work to get to this point. It wasn't always rainbows and roses. We've had tons of tough conversations. and we just really learned through it. And the big thing was we took responsibility for our parts where things weren't working. Yeah. And that's the main thing. That was something that I think I really had to work on, because I felt like I was doing everything. But like John said, I was doing everything for me. It was not for her. So it was, well, I'm doing this and this. She's like, well, I ain't ask you for that. And it's like, well, but you ain't have to ask. But I didn't ask because that's not what I need. Right. And I think a lot of times that causes a lot of issue is you run yourself ragged doing something that you don't actually need to do. Right. And if you just listen, they'll tell you what you need to do. You do that, and you realize you have a lot more energy and a lot more time. Yeah. So that's the big thing.
Yeah, and that's a gold nugget for the audience here, that if you do feel that, hey, you might be slacking in an area in your relationship, be proactive about it and bring it up, right? Yeah. Like you said, those yearly reviews of just talking about it, of what worked, what didn't work, what you want to improve on. That's really helpful for the audience listening. But John, give us a shot of truth when it comes to accountability and responsibility.
Own your shit, and what ain't yours, throw it back in their face and let them go on.
Then leave they ass.
And leave they ass.
Bro, I need to put that on the shirt, bro. That was so funny to me,
give
man.
Give us some more golden nuggets, man.
Man, really, I don't even know about God. I'd just be out here saying what works for me. So I tell people, that's your shot of truth. Do what works for you in your relationship. Everybody tends to try to meet a goal that they saw or they see somebody else do. Find somebody that looks at a relationship the way you do. They want what you want out of it. And that's what makes relationships simple. Find somebody that wants what you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. My shot of truth would be, we preach it all the time. Be honest. Be honest in the relationship. And, when those issues do come up and your partner's having that conversation that's hard to take in, if you're the person listening, hey, don't react, take some time. If you have to take some time, a couple of days or, an hour, and come back to it and think about it and formulate, a logical response, take that time. Take that time, because they're having the transparency to be honest with you. Then hey, you owe it to yourself and to that person to really think about it, versus like being reactive right away and saying something that you maybe didn't want to say, and it turning into a bigger issue. But that's my shot of truth, and thank you guys. Great feedback today. So
thank you, and don't forget, leave their ass like John said.
Leave their ass.
Peace, motherfucker.
We out.
Bro, that took me out, bro.